Sierra Leone's big gamble, President Bio's power-sharing deal, unity or political survival. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we break down Africa's politics with analysis, comparisons, and just the right touch of humor. I'm Ahisatu Kamara Kargbo. Tonight we turn our attention to Sierra Leone, where President Julius Maada Bio, according to his advisor Alpha Kanu, is considering sharing power with political rivals. Yes, you heard that right. Power sharing in Sierra Leone. But is this inclusivity or just another fancy way of saying, let's share the perks? Stay tuned, because this story has big implications, not just for Salone, but for Africa at large. In a recent exclusive with Truth Media, presidential advisor Alhaji Alpha Kanu, once a minister in the rival APC and now part of the SLPP, announced that President Julius Maada Bio is exploring legislation opting into a power-sharing scheme with political parties from the last general elections to promote political inclusivity, reduce tensions, and create a more cooperative environment. What it means for Sierra Leone. Democracy in remix mode.
Let we shape the power. It is a power sharing they suggest. It is a power sharing that they propose to we. And for me, I call them a challenge. If we really mean, say, we Sierra Leoneans, we want for this country, unite.
So I just
we live cohesively.
I just want to get this clear. The president is proposing a power sharing
clearly
with the opposition and
with everybody else will take part in the election.
Okay, is that how is this gonna happen? Is it
it's easy? The people determine that.
So nothing where you get where they plan for legislate,
yes,
or it's just the power with the president?
No, not at all. You don't get that power there. Okay. Well, he has that power, but then that will be a discretion. You can call me today like I call me Alpha Kanu from the APC. I did return. That is discretion.
But you're also APC again, or?
No, not being APC.
Okay.
Until 28 April 2023.
Okay, you're not SLPP now.
Completely.
Inclusivity versus co-option. This isn't just a gesture. It's akin to inviting your political rivals to tea and then asking them to help boil the kettle. If genuine, it could signal maturing democratic norms. But skeptics might see it as a strategic cauldron for diffusing opposition energy, especially ahead of future polls. Constitutional choreography. Any such initiative must pass through Parliament, and Sierra Leone's legislature is not exactly known for quick moves. Crafting such legislation will require constitutional nimbleness and careful calibration between inclusivity and institutional integrity. Public sentiment. If well communicated, the move could bolster public trust. But if perceived as political theater, it could inspire jokes about sharing power like we share Wi-Fi passwords, with reluctance, confusion, and lots of buffering. Africa-wide comparison. How does Sierra Leone stack up? Let's take a quick pan-continental tour of power-sharing experiments, country model of power-sharing basics lessons, and quips. South Africa, ANC-led government of national unity, 1994 to 1996. Reconciliation government with key apartheid-era parties. Established early democratic stability, or at least interrupted the Civil War's popcorn machine. Kenya Grand Coalition government, 2008 to 2013. President and Prime Minister from rival camps after election violence. Peace maintained, but power sharing ended up being a bit like two people cramming into one canoe. Possible, but uncomfortable. Zimbabwe government of national unity, 2009 to 2013. Mugabe and rival Morgan Tsvangirai shared power. It was unity, but at what cost? Imagine sharing a bathroom with your worst enemy. Ethiopia, ethnic-based federal power sharing, ongoing, rotating positions among dominant ethnic blocs. Structurally inclusive, but carries its own fracture points, like building with Lego bricks that might snap apart. Sierra Leone's experiment, by contrast, proposes inclusion across party lines, more of a tempered diplomatic potluck than a forced seating chart. Forward-looking analysis, what could lie ahead? 1. Legal drafting and debate. Crafting legislation that's transparent and equitable will be critical. Will SLPP include electoral losers proportionally, or make symbolic gestures like some opposition ministers but ensuring core SLPP control? Second opposition reaction. Will APC and others roll out the welcome mat or sharpen their pitchforks? Public optics and internal party debates will determine real partnership or polite resistance. Third, institutional impact. Effective collaboration could strengthen governance, but coordination of ministries, budgets, and accountability structures will need serious managerial mojo. 4. Public perception and political humor. Expect streetwise commentary, perhaps memes. Bio's sharing power package comes with extra charge unless you pay in jokes. Fifth, regional influence. A successful model might inspire West African peers to embrace more inclusive governance, introducing more friendly coalition sci-fi to a sometimes all-or-nothing political reality. The Sierra Leonean dilemma: genuine reform or political survival. At the heart of this debate lies a fundamental question. Is this power-sharing proposal a bold attempt at reconciliation or just another political survival toolkit? President Bio has faced significant criticism over the 2023 elections, which international observers like the European Union Election Observation Mission, EUEOM, described as lacking transparency in tabulation and riddled with statistical inconsistencies, EUEOM Final Report 2023. In that context, inviting rivals into government may look less like magnanimity and more like damage control. As one Sierra Leonean taxi driver quipped recently in a BBC Africa Street Vox Pop, "If my neighbor steals my goat and later invites me to dinner, should I clap for him or ask what's on the menu?" That pretty much captures the public skepticism. The African playbook: when sharing turns sour. History suggests that power sharing across Africa has often been Plan B, a crisis fix, not a voluntary democratic gesture. Let's sharpen the comparison. Liberia, 2003 to 2006. The Accra Peace Agreement gave way to a transitional government mixing rebels, politicians, and civil society. It calmed the guns, yes, but it also turned ministries into feeding troughs for competing groups. Lesson: sharing cake can work, but someone must still bake the cake first. Sudan, 2019 to 2021. The Military-Civilian Transitional Council promised hope, only to collapse into a coup. Lesson: if the chefs keep fighting over the knife, the stew never gets cooked. Democratic Republic of the Congo, 2019. President Felix Tshisekedi's power sharing with Joseph Kabila's coalition quickly became dysfunctional, with ministers pulling in opposite directions. Lesson: two captains, one sinking ship. The question, therefore, is whether Sierra Leone can design a model before crisis, not after bloodshed or breakdown. That would make it a rare African outlier. Risks of coalition fatigue. Even if implemented, Sierra Leone must beware of what I'll call coalition fatigue syndrome, CFS. It sets in when 1. Everyone is inside government, leaving no credible opposition to hold leaders accountable. 2. Policy gridlock emerges because rival camps veto each other's initiatives. 3. Public frustration grows as citizens see politicians enjoying perks while problems like inflation, unemployment, and corruption persist. A Ghanaian political analyst once joked that coalitions in Africa are like polygamous marriages. Everyone signs up for peace, but soon enough, someone's sulking in the other room. A glimpse into Sierra Leone's political future. If Bio moves forward, we could see short-term calm, reduced protests, and softer rhetoric from opposition leaders if they get a slice of the pie. Medium-term turbulence, frustrations within parties as grassroots members accuse leaders of selling out. Long-term precedent, if successful, Sierra Leone might pioneer a preventive coalition model in West Africa, an exportable idea to neighbors like Guinea and the Gambia. But if botched, It could deepen cynicism about democracy, reinforcing the belief that African politics is a game of chairs, musical chairs, but with fewer chairs than players. International reaction, donors and democracy. Advocates, development partners will be watching closely. Western donors, particularly the US and EU, have pressured Bio's government over transparency and inclusivity. A genuine power-sharing arrangement could rehabilitate Sierra Leone's democratic reputation, making it easier to secure loans and aid, boost diplomatic ties, with President Bio recasting himself as a unifier ahead of international summits, serve as a bargaining chip, especially with institutions like the IMF, which tie fiscal support to good governance. But if it looks like a cosmetic coalition, donors will respond with polite nods while tightening their wallets. Humor in the midst of politics. Sierra Leoneans, masters of political humor, are unlikely to let this slide without memes and jokes. Already, WhatsApp groups are buzzing with quips. Power sharing? Does that mean the light will stay on during blackout? Next election manifesto, free Wi-Fi, free rice, and free opposition seats in cabinet. Because in a country where electricity rationing is daily, sharing power has more than one meaning. The broader African question, can inclusivity cure polarization? Across the continent, polarization is deepening. Nigeria with its ethno-religious divides, Senegal with generational tensions, Uganda with age-old authoritarianism. Sierra Leone's experiment could be a laboratory test. Can institutionalized inclusivity work before violence erupts? If it does, Africa may have a new governance export. If it fails, it will be just another entry in the continent's long catalog of failed coalitions. Possible models for Sierra Leone's power-sharing experiment 1. Kenya-style Grand Coalition. How it worked. After the bloody 2007 to 2008 election crisis, Kenya brokered a deal where Mwai Kibaki became president and Raila Odinga became prime minister, with ministries split between their camps. Pros for Sierra Leone could reduce immediate APC-SLPP tensions. Opposition gains formal say in policy-making. Cons. Ministries become bargaining chips instead of service centers. Citizens risk seeing a bloated cabinet of job seekers in suits. Humorous twist. Imagine a ministry of power literally shared. One week SLPP turns on the lights, next week APC turns them off. Sierra Leoneans would say, so that's why the blackout schedule looks political. 2. South Africa-style government of national unity, GNU. How it worked. Post-apartheid, Nelson Mandela's ANC invited the National Party and Inkatha Freedom Party into a transitional cabinet. Pros for Sierra Leone. Symbolically powerful, a gesture of healing from Bio after a divisive 2023 election. International partners would cheer the move. Cons. Works best in transitional moments, e.g., post-conflict. Sierra Leone is not in such a rupture, so it risks being seen as overkill or opportunism. Humorous twist. In Mandela's GNU, ministers at least agreed on singing the new anthem. In Sierra Leone's case, we might end up with two rival anthems. Sweet Salone, remixed by SLPP and APC DJs. 3rd, Ethiopia-style rotational power. How it worked. Ethiopia's ethnic-based federalism sometimes includes rotating leadership among groups, though with serious instability risks. Pros for Sierra Leone could appease ethno-regional balancing, Mende, Temne, Limba, Creole, etc. Might soften accusations that one ethnic bloc dominates. Cons. Institutional fragility. Sierra Leone lacks Ethiopia's federal architecture. Rotation could be manipulated, leaders refusing to step aside when their turn ends. Humorous twist. Sierra Leoneans already joke about turn-by-turn democracy. This could institutionalize it. Today's turn, SLPP, tomorrow APC, next week NGOs. 4th hybrid committee model. How it could work. Instead of splitting ministries, opposition gets oversight roles in parliamentary committees, commissions, and even the Electoral Commission. Pros for Sierra Leone: less messy than sharing executive power, strengthens institutions rather than personalities. Cons: opposition may see it as tokenism, if not backed by real influence. Could frustrate Bio loyalists who prefer central control. Humorous twist: this is like inviting the opposition to a wedding, not as bride or groom, but as best man who still has to pay for the drinks. What role might Alpha Kanu play? Alpha Kanu, the political chameleon of Sierra Leone, is perfectly positioned to be the chief negotiator of this experiment. Having shifted from APC strongman to Bio's advisor, he has insider credibility with the APC grassroots, though critics label him a defector. Direct line to Bio, giving him leverage to shape policy. Personal stake in proving that defectors can be kingmakers, not opportunists. In Sierra Leonean parlance, people joke, if politics were a football match, Alpha Kanu would already be wearing both teams' jerseys just in case. Institutional implications. If Sierra Leone adopts any of these models, the ripple effects could reshape the presidency, from single-party dominance to a coalition-based executive. Parliament, more compromise but slower legislation. Civil service, risk of politicization if jobs are traded as coalition currency. Public trust could grow if citizens see services improve. But if it's just another elite bargain, expect louder disillusionment. Africa-wide forward. Look, if Sierra Leone pulls this off, it could set a precedent in West Africa, where coups are becoming the fashion statement of disgruntled militaries, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Instead of guns, Bio would be showing that political dialogue can be an alternative mechanism for change. Yet if it fails, Sierra Leone could serve as the cautionary tale, a democracy that tried to share power but ended up sharing problems. Humor, once more for the road. Power sharing in Sierra Leone? That's like two goats tied to one rope, peaceful until the grass runs out. Bio wants to share power, but has he tried sharing fuel first? That's the real test of unity in Salone. Scenarios for Sierra Leone's next 5 years under Power Sharing 1. Best case scenario, inclusive stability. What happens? Legislation passes bringing APC and smaller parties into government roles. Ministries are allocated fairly, with oversight committees strengthened. Public sees improved service delivery, especially in bread and butter issues. Electricity, jobs, food prices. International partners, EU, US, IMF, World Bank, reward Sierra Leone with increased donor confidence and concessional funding. Result, Sierra Leone becomes a model of peaceful inclusivity, demonstrating that democracy can self-correct without coups or unrest. Bio leaves a legacy as the president who softened partisanship. Humorous note, people might finally say, for once, politicians shared power without sharing rice bags first. Second middle ground scenario, symbolic peace, functional chaos. What happens? Opposition leaders are given token ministries, like tourism or youth affairs, but real power stays with SLPP. Tensions cool down on the surface, but disillusionment grows at the grassroots level. Policy-making stalls as ministers block each other's initiatives. Economy continues struggling, inflation, weak Leone, rising fuel costs. Result, the arrangement looks good for international headlines, but domestically it's seen as another elite deal. Citizens keep joking that inclusivity means all politicians included, but people excluded. Humorous note, Sierra Leoneans might say, dem de share power in a state house, but we still de share one candle in a house. They're sharing power in state house, but we're still sharing one candle at home. Third worst case scenario, the coalition collapse. What happens? Power sharing fails as rivalries turn ministries into battlefields. APC accuses BO of manipulating the deal, while SLPP accuses APC of sabotage. Grassroots supporters feel betrayed, fueling street protests. The economy deteriorates further, and international partners lose patience. Political gridlock leads to instability, creating an opening for military adventurism, a real risk given West Africa's recent coup contagion. Result: Sierra Leone risks sliding back into its darker past of instability, undoing decades of post-war democratic progress. Humorous note: dark humor. The public might remark, they said power sharing, but all we got was problem sharing. Regional trends: Sierra Leone in the West African puzzle coup versus coalitions. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, military regimes replacing politicians. Senegal, democratic protests reshaping political leadership. Sierra Leone, experimenting with voluntary coalition politics. Lesson for Africa. If Bio succeeds, Sierra Leone could rebrand itself as the counter-narrative to coupism, a place where politicians choose the ballot box plus dialogue instead of bullets. But if it fails, critics will say Sierra Leone proves that Africa's political elites can neither share power nor manage it responsibly. International stakes. The IMF and World Bank are already pressing Sierra Leone for fiscal discipline after overshooting its 2024 budget by over NL 1.6 billion. Truth Media, August 2025. Donors will only take power sharing seriously if it leads to budget credibility, anti-corruption measures, and institutional reforms. In other words, the world won't fund coalition feasts. They'll want receipts and balanced books. A bit more satire. In Freetown, barroom analysts are already making predictions. If Bio shares power with APC, Parliament go turn like market. Plenty noise, small progress. When opposition gets ministerial posts, first policy dem go pass na free rice for dem family. Policy roadmap: how to turn sharing power from slogan to System 1, codify the deal in law with teeth timers and transparency, enabling Act plus sunset clause. Draft a narrowly tailored law that authorizes a defined, time-bound power-sharing arrangement, e.g. 24 to 36 months, specifies which posts are shareable, and includes an automatic sunset unless renewed by a supermajority, hard rules on apportionment, spell out a formula for cabinet/board appointments based on last election results to avoid midnight mathematics. Public dashboards require quarterly public reporting on appointments, attendance, and delivery, KPIs, see Section 6. Why it matters. After the 2023 transparency concerns, EU observers flagged statistical inconsistencies and urged full disaggregated results. Anything short of hard rules will look like soft theater. Reuters EAS 2. Share oversight first, not just seats parliamentary committees. Allocate chair, vice chair roles proportionally in public accounts, finance, electoral, anti-corruption, mines, energy, and education. Independent commissions. Give the opposition binding representation on the Electoral Commission's data publication oversight group to shepherd polling station level releases ahead of the next vote, a direct answer to the EU EOM ask. Why it matters. Africa's history shows coalitions often split ministries like party favors. Strengthening oversight bodies gives citizens benefits even if cabinet harmony wobbles. 3. Create a real dispute resolution backbone joint mediation panel, JMP. Small, fixed membership, Chief Justice nominee plus Interreligious Council plus Bar Association, empowered to mediate intra-coalition disputes in 14 days, issue public communique, and refer breaches to Parliament. External guarantors. Invite ECOWAS and AU as light-touch guarantors, a lesson from Kenya's 2008 National Accord that had credible external facilitation and a timetable. 4. Protect the civil service from becoming a buffet. Merit ring fence. Freeze senior civil service recruitment rules. Mandate open competitions. And require public service commission sign-off before lateral political placements. Conflict of interest registry. Publish ministers' and DG's declarations. Update semi-annually. 5. Budget credibility as a coalition survival metric mid-year budget review with sanctions. Tie ministerial scorecards to budget execution quality, not just spend rates. Wage bill guardrail. Set a simple wage bill growth cap and publish monthly execution reports. Why now? Official figures and multilaterals point to slippage and a larger-than-planned 2024 deficit. Restoring credibility is existential and is how you convince donors this isn't a coalition feast. 6. Delivery KPIs the public can touch. For each shared ministry, publish 3 100-day verifiable goals. Energy, unplanned outage hours down X%. Fuel supply continuity days up Y. Food prices, weekly market basket index posted online, mobile, variance kept within target band. Youth jobs, paid apprenticeships launched, count completion rate. Revenue, e-filing uptake, leakages recovered. Tie bonuses and permanence of appointees to these targets. Radical, yes. Effective, also yes. 7. Transparent communications, no, he said, she said. Joint communiques, fixed cadence. Fortnightly, co-signed updates with a standard template. What was agreed, what slipped, what's next. Open data by default. Publish machine-readable data sets on appointments, procurements, and results. Think facts first, spin later. Comparative templates, and what to borrow or avoid. Template, borrow. This avoid, that why it matters. Kenya 2008, Grand Coalition, External Mediation Time-Bound Pact, PM role clearly defined. Cabinet bloat and portfolio horse trading. Sierra Leone can emulate the timetable discipline without importing a two-boss gridlock. South Africa 1994-96, GNU symbolic reconciliation plus inclusion thresholds for cabinet. Assuming transition logic applies forever. Use GNU optics for unity, but keep the sunset clause. Zimbabwe 2009 GNU. A written pact with defined reforms and a constitutional track. Veto politics, elite capture, and rule bending. Sierra Leone should preempt who really rules by hard-coding arbitration and KPI triggers. Humor interlude. If Sierra Leone borrows the worst bits, we'll get coalition mathematics. 10 ministries plus 10 parties equals 40 press conferences and 0 transformers for the grid. Minimalist design choice. Hybrid oversight first, the least messy option. If State House wants a lower risk start, keep executive posts largely intact. Hand the opposition formal power over key oversight committees and statutory audit follow-ups. Bind the Electoral Commission to a public publication calendar for disaggregated results before the next national vote. This model costs fewer political calories, strengthens institutions, and delivers quick wins citizens can see and meme about. Implementation timeline, sketch, day 0 to 30 table the enabling bill with apportionment formula plus sunset plus committee rules. Constitute the joint mediation panel. Publish the coalition KPI list and data portals. Day 31 to 100 seat committee chairs. Sign rules of procedure. Release mid-year budget execution snapshot and wage bill path to rebuild credibility after the 2024 overrun. Launch the energy food price youth jobs KPI trackers. Month 4 to 12, first public coalition report card, donor roundtable aligned to KPI progress. Electoral Commission publishes polling station data from prior cycles and the new disclosure standard for the next vote. Year 2 to 3 independent review, renew, reform, or retire the arrangement at sunset. Guardrails against the usual trouble. No portfolio padding. Cap cabinet size. Any new ministry requires a 2/3 vote and offsets elsewhere. Anti-defection rules. If an appointee's party exits the pact, the seat vacates automatically. Open procurement. Mandate e-procurement and publish the top 100 contracts quarterly. Audit follow-through. The Public Accounts Committee must table an action-taken report within 60 days of each Auditor General finding. No more dust collector PDFs. Political optics, because perception is policy. Name a respected, nonpartisan delivery czar, someone boring, honest, and allergic to press conferences. Set the tone. President Bio frames this as constitutional, corrective, and time-bound, not a forever marriage. Alpha Kanu's lane. Use his cross-party credibility to negotiate rules, not favors. The country has seen the favors movie before. The underlying report of his share power remarks is public. If the follow-through is mushy, the headlines write themselves. Why donors will, or won't, buy in. They will if Sierra Leone pairs inclusivity with fiscal rectitude and execution. Right now, the deficit and overspend story is the elephant in every boardroom. They won't if this turns into an elite pact, with a bigger wage bill and fewer transformers. Pro tip, the IMF reads footnotes. Quick reality check. Memes you'll actually hear. Dem say power sharing. We just want power. Light. Unity government? Start with uniting the price of rice with our salaries. Stress testing. The plan. 3 break glass drills. 1. Legal constitutional drill. From handshake to hard law. What could break? A vague pact without statutory footing turns into portfolio horse trading. Parliament balks. Timelines drift. Early warnings. Frameworks announced on TV, but no bill on the order paper. Opaque appointments. Committee powers unchanged. Fixes that hold up in court. Enabling Act plus Sunset Clause. 24 to 36 months. That codifies 1. Which offices are shareable. 2. Proportional apportionment by last election results. 3. Mandatory public progress reports. Independent dispute board with a 14-day mediation clock and power to publish binding communiques. Light touch external guarantors from ECOWAS AU. Help, as Kenya's 2008 accord learned. Why this is essential now. The EU-EOM 2023 final report flagged opaque tabulation and absence of polling station-level disclosures. Any pact aimed at unity must also hardwire transparency rules, or it will look like crisis cosmetics. 2. Fiscal drill, no coalition feast, just credible books. What could break? Wage bill drifts up. Procurement balloons, donors withhold support, citizens see sharing power as sharing perks. Early warnings, supplementary budgets with rising current spending and shrinking capital, arrears creep, unpaid electricity, fuel bills, facts on the table. Independent reporting and local outlets say 2024 spending beat the approved envelope by approximately 1.6 billion new leones, 25.1 billion outlay versus 23.5 billion approved. The cash deficit widened, a credibility problem donors will notice. The World Bank also puts the 2024 fiscal deficit near 4.8% of GDP, above target. Fixes that travel well. Coalition KP, I-1 is budget execution quality, not just projects launched. Publish monthly wage bill and procurement dashboards. Cap cabinet size. Require offsets for any new ministry. Kenya-style agreements cautioned against cabinet bloat. Tie ministerial retention to hitting 3 100-day targets. See scorecard below. Align with the 2025 supplementary budget's fiscal consolidation message, and then prove it with data, not slogans. 3. Political party drill, from optics to operations. What could break? Token ministries for rivals, committees still controlled from State House, grassroots backlash, sellout on all sides. Early warnings, opposition placed in low-leverage portfolios only. Oversight committees unchanged, comms dominated by partisan victory laps. Fixes that actually include hybrid oversight. First, before slicing up the cabinet, seed real oversight, public accounts, finance, mines, energy, education by apportioning committee chairs proportionally and publishing electoral commission data to polling station level on a fixed calendar directly answers the EU EOM's transparency ask. Clear timelines plus fortnightly joint communiques to kill rumor economics. Citizen scorecard. Weekly, public, simple. Publish this 10-metric dashboard. No spin, just numbers. If the coalition is real, these move. If it's theater, they don't. First, grid uptime, hours per week, and unplanned outages. National plus Freetown disaggregation. Alpha Kanu himself has pushed energy fixes publicly. Track them. 2. Fuel supply continuity, days without shortage. NPA stations audit. Third market basket, Leone price of rice plus oil plus transport. Post a standardized basket weekly. Fourth official versus street FX gap percent. Signals macro credibility. 5. Wage bill to revenue ratio percent, monthly, stop the quiet drift. 6. Capital spend share percent, reverse the 2024 tilt toward recurrent outlays flagged by local budget trackers. 7. Top 100 contracts, e-procurement published, YN. Links plus vendor names quarterly. 8. Audit actions taken rate, %. Percent of auditor general findings with remediation orders executed in 60 days. 9. Youth apprenticeships started completed, count %. Independent verification via TVET partners. 10th ECSL data transparency milestones hit, YN, release schedule, polling station CSVs, and reconciliation notes, per EU EOM recs. How to use it on air. A single on-screen card with green, amber, red dots. If 3 reds persist for 4 weeks, invite the minister and the opposition chair together. Make the coalition account for the coalition. Comparative guardrails. What to borrow, what to bin. Borrow from South Africa's 1994 to 96 GNU. Inclusion thresholds codified in law. Interim constitution, plus cabinet drawn from multiple parties by seat share. But keep a hard sunset so transition doesn't become forever. Borrow from Kenya's 2008 Accord, external facilitation, portfolio balance principles, proportional reflection of strengths. But avoid cabinet inflation and ambiguous lines of authority. Study Zimbabwe's GPA, clear text, constitutional follow-through, and the pitfalls of veto politics and elite capture. Design Sierra Leone's pact to prevent who really rules, stalemates, where Alpha Kanu fits and why that matters. The share power drumbeat has come from Alpha Kanu himself via interviews and posts. He's also been touting reforms from electoral system debates, PR/referendum, to sector policy. If he becomes the chief negotiator, the litmus test is whether he pushes rules and data, publication calendars, committee powers, budget dashboards, rather than jobs and flags. Regional ripples, why this could punch above its weight. If Sierra Leone makes preventive power sharing work before a breakdown, it creates a counter-narrative to West Africa's coup contagion and adds to the continent's maturing coalition toolkit. See South Africa's current GNU revival debates. If it flops, it hands cynics fresh proof that inclusion in Africa often means everyone at the table, no food on the plate. Quick humor break, because Saloni politics needs it. Dem say power sharing, we just want power, light. Unity government? Start with uniting the price of rice with our salaries. What we'll tackle next, coming up in the article. A playbook for the Electoral Commission. Polling station data formats, reconciliation notes, and a realistic publication timetable that meets the EU EOM standard. A coalition communications grid, fortnightly, co-signed, data first. A no-bloat cabinet rule and model organogram that fits seat share math and keeps the wage bill inside the rails. Scenario updates as Parliament considers any enabling bill. And reactions from APC, NGC, and civil society. Donor test, which KP is unlocked support and which red flags close wallets. Electoral Commission. Playbook, transparency is non-negotiable. The 2023 EU EOM final report was blunt. Sierra Leone must publish polling station-level results in a timely and accessible format. For a power-sharing pact to be credible, ECSL, Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, should 1. Commit to a data release calendar, e.g., within 48 hours, of collation published disaggregated results. 2. Use open formats, CSV, XML instead of locked PDFs. 3. Publish reconciliation notes explaining variances between station tallies and district totals. 4. Invite opposition and civil society to witness audits. This isn't a luxury. It's the oxygen of legitimacy. A coalition without transparent elections is like a wedding without witnesses. Nobody trusts the vows. Coalition Communications Grid. Joint fortnightly briefings. Co-signed updates from both government and opposition with 3 sections. What we did, what slipped, what's next. Data first, spin later. Start with metrics, energy uptime, market basket prices, budget execution, then let politicians explain. Crisis protocol. Any scandal or policy clash triggers a joint mediation statement within 72 hours. As one Sierra Leonean satirist quipped, if politicians won't talk to each other, they should at least talk to us. Cabinet-size discipline. No more portfolio padding. Cap cabinet ministries at current levels. Any new ministry requires a 2/3 parliamentary vote and an offset, merging or dissolving another. Ban minister without portfolio posts. As one Ghanaian analyst joked, that's just a minister with a driver, but no job description. Tie cabinet wages to GDP growth. If growth is 1%, perks grow 1%. If growth is negative, guess what? No new SUVs. This ensures that power sharing doesn't become job sharing at taxpayer expense. Advice to African leaders. Don't wait for crisis to consider inclusivity. Power sharing after bloodshed is crisis management, not statesmanship. 2. Write rules, not handshakes. Oral deals die with the first quarrel. Laws and institutions endure. 3. Oversight is power too. Opposition in committees and commissions can strengthen democracy more than ministerial swaps. 4th. Budget credibility is democracy credibility. A coalition without fiscal discipline is just an expensive press release. 5. Respect the people's intelligence. Citizens know when you are sharing power versus sharing perks. Fool them once, they will meme you forever. Summary of key messages. President Bio's proposed power sharing is a bold yet risky initiative, framed by advisor Alpha Kanu as a path to inclusivity and unity. Sierra Leone can draw lessons from Kenya, 2008, South Africa, 1994 GNU, and Zimbabwe, 2009 GPA, but must avoid their pitfalls of bloated cabinets and elite capture. A policy roadmap demands legal codification, fiscal guardrails, real oversight powers for the opposition, and measurable delivery, KPIs. The Electoral Commission's transparency is the linchpin. Publishing polling station data is not optional if this pact is to be trusted. Citizen scorecards and joint communications should make progress visible and keep leaders honest. Done well, Sierra Leone could pioneer a preventive coalition model in West Africa, a counterweight to coup contagion. Done poorly, it risks becoming another coalition feast that deepens cynicism. Final thought, Africa doesn't need more governments of national unity born of crisis. It needs governments of national maturity, born of foresight. Leaders who share power before the streets demand. It will not only save their country's stress, they might just save democracy itself. Thank you for watching The Bold African Voice, BAV. The key lesson? Africa doesn't need unity governments born of crisis. It needs governments of national maturity born of foresight. What do you think? Is Sierra Leone on the verge of true inclusivity, or is this just politics dressed up as reform? Let us know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss our Africa-wide deep dives.